And we are live. Welcome, all you YouTubers and people who might be listening to this on their iPhones or Android devices. This is the monthly Rideshare podcast. This is the true Uber advisory board out there. And I am Kevin, the entrepreneur. And we've got a slightly different crew of co-hosts today. We have your driver, Mike, here. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, guys. Hope you're doing well.
All right. And Cecily from Drive Girl Drive could not make it. And I am assuming Mark from Uber Hints also cannot make it. He is out in Sacramento, and all attempts to locate him have been in vain. Hopefully, he will be discovered at some point. But filling in for him, we have your personal driver. And since he is new to the podcast, Aaron, say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Aaron, your personal driver, and I just started a YouTube channel last year, and I've been following these two fine fellows for the last year, and I'm so excited to be on a live stream with them. I feel like it makes me like special somehow. Anyway, I do live drive-alongs while I'm doing my Uber and Lyft every Friday and Saturday, and I like to do a live stream on Wednesday with drivers or other YouTubers, and when I can, I like to do informative videos on Monday, but like 4 videos a week is hard sometimes. So yeah, go ahead and check it out, guys. I really appreciate it if you came and said hi.
4 videos a week, you wimp. I can do 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah.
Of course.
How many kids do you have?
More than me, guys.
Yeah, admittingly, I don't have kids. Kids kind of play a big role in that. Anyway, this is kind of nice because one of the things that I had stated up front is that when I started this podcast, while we would have what I called the brain trust, when certain members could not make it, I would want to have rotating guest co-hosts. Now, I didn't have enough time to get a second guest co-host, but, you know, this is how the show's going to work. If one of them can't make it, we will try to have someone else come in temporarily to fill the spot, and I picked Aaron, partly because of one of the topics that we were going to discuss today, and also because he's literally been bugging me with tweets, emails, and Ryan Gosling gifts since we did the first episode to be on here.
You made it, Aaron. You finally made it. You're on the monthly Rideshare podcast. How's it feel?
Yeah, some people want to be billionaires, okay? Some people want to marry the girl of their dreams. Right. I already did that, so I didn't have to worry about it. I wanted to be on the podcast here with the main crew of the YouTubers who do Uber and Lyft.
Yep. And you already betrayed us by being on another podcast this same day.
Hey, man, I am in popular demand, okay? So,
that's right.
I mean, you can't just have, unless there's a contract in hand, I am a free agent, my friend.
Yeah. No, you're an independent contractor, so you can go on as many podcasts as you want. We're using Uber terminology here. And yeah, and by the way, Uber girl Paula, you're also welcome on this podcast in the future as well sometime, as is pretty much any rideshare on YouTube. But, you know, we started like half hour late, so let's get into the topics. And there is a topic that we're going to open with, and it has been very, very passionate, very vocal, and also very, very recent. So let's start with it. Uber has officially started raising driver rates across the country.
I have actually something even better than that. Did you guys hear about the news coming out of Seattle?
I don't think so.
The city council is debating legislation that would double current rates, whatever they are. That's just the language in the bill. They want to double the rates for the drivers in Seattle.
Oh, wow. So this got even more interesting than I anticipated.
Yeah, Seattle is the only place where there's an Uber union in the whole nation. And so the union has been lobbying for higher rates in the city hall. And hey, man, in politics, money talks. So they haven't obviously passed it. They haven't voted on it yet, but it has been drafted and they're talking about it now.
Well, that's interesting. You know, ever since this channel started, I've always been a little leery of government interference and unions because I was kind of wondering, well, what would that do to us? Would it take away our ability to log on whenever we wanted? Would it give Uber a reason to take away the surge? And you know what? Uber just got so bad at everything they were doing where they were starting to tell us when we couldn't log on, and they're taking away our surge, where it's like, I'm actually kind of interested in seeing what would happen if a union forced Uber to start doing some of these things.
Yeah, the Uber threatened to leave Seattle, and the city of Seattle was like, all right, bye. Hey, Lyft, do you want to have 100% of this market share all to yourself? And they were like, yep.
Yeah, they're doing the Austin tactic, but then the Lyft was like, yeah, well, we're good with that. Interesting.
Well, with Austin, I thought I remembered Lyft left Austin too.
They did.
I think they both left, and I mean, what was kind of disappointing about Austin is I was hoping Austin would change the conversation, because when Uber and Lyft left, you know, Texans, they're kind of like New Yorkers. They're get her done people. So when Uber and Lyft left, they said, hey, we'll create our own rideshare companies, and they created like Fasten and I think Austin Ride, or whatever the heck it was called. And they were doing very well, obviously, because, hey, there was a need for that. And I was a little disappointed that the Texas government caved on Uber and Lyft's demands when they had no reason to cave on those demands, because they were doing perfectly fine without them.
Well, I want to talk about these increases in pay, because right now I've seen like 4 or 5 markets, and they keep coming in. I just want to put out the question, Aaron, good thing or bad thing? What we're seeing right now with increases in pay, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Let me get your thoughts on that.
Well, historically, Uber has been losing money per ride. I mean, the statistics are different here and there, but it's anywhere from like 30 to 60 cents per mile on average. They lose nationwide because they're basically supplementing customers with all this investment money. So I think what we're seeing is a move towards profitability, because it has been a long time since Uber has turned a profit. And after the SoftBank purchase, I think that they realized that maybe they need to have like more of a lucrative business model, especially now that driverless cars don't seem to be working out on the Uber side. So they actually might be doing this to make a little bit of extra money for themselves too.
And it should be noted, of course, that folks listening to this, you're not just getting a pay raise. In the same notification, Uber is also raising their booking fee. They are raising their booking fee, and you don't get any of that. And this pay increase is going to be passed on to the passengers. It's just such a nice, a small, admittingly, but refreshing change that we're getting notifications that, hey, we're raising the booking fee, but hey, you're also getting a pay raise. And it's ranging somewhere from 5%, like in Cincinnati, which is pitiful in my opinion. But Pittsburgh got like a 10% raise. So
yeah, and I did confirm. My brother drives in Pittsburgh. That's where I came from, guys. We located from Pittsburgh. Did confirm. And by the way, Kevin just did a video, I believe first in this space, announcing this pay increase. I did get confirmation today, a screenshot of that pay increase. I want to bring out a question here. We see some, hey guys, I appreciate you being here on the live stream. I see some good questions in the live chat. I want to bring your questions into this discussion. Sean Binegar says, and there's 2 things here. Do you think they are giving a small raise in screwing us on surge? And then Mike S says, let's not get too excited too early about these rates. You know they will do something stupid. It is Uber after all. And that's what I was saying to someone in one of your comments, Kevin, in your video. And Kevin, I'll ask you this, is that's interesting. Is that, yes, there's maybe again, I agree with you, 5% is nothing. 10% minimum do it on these increases. So are we going to see, okay, 10% increase, but are we going to see less surge?
You know, it's possible. And that's a thing. Like, that's a question that I haven't figured out. Like, why did Uber all of a sudden decide to give some markets a pay raise? Was it because their pay raise without giving the riders a pay raise failed? Was it because taking away the surge and the flat fare surge, did that fail? Is it because of the union thing going on in Seattle? I don't know why they did this. So it's hard to predict what the reasons are or what they're going to do afterwards. But I pretty much, but I will note one thing. two of the most vocal videos that I've made recently are the ones that announced the pay raise without paying the drivers more, and one explaining the upfront surge, which actually got me featured heavily in an Uberman video, and I gained like 100 subscribers that day. It was weird. So I think if something can be taken from this, I will say this: even if Uber doesn't acknowledge it, I think drivers' dissatisfaction does eventually force their hand, because I've heard from sources, I have sources, that the launch of the upfront surge and the pay hike without the pay increase were definitely failures. Like, they didn't lose enough drivers where it's like, oh, Uber's in serious trouble, but they lost enough to notice.
Well, let's not forget that 94 out of 100 drivers quit after a year.
Yep. Yep.
So when you have a 6% retention rate, and then you start taking away the surge, which veteran drivers know is the only way to make good money.
Oh, it's
a lot of places, especially like Florida, I mean, you're making 60 cents a mile. You can't make a living 60 cents a mile.
Yeah.
So if you start messing around with the surge, which is how they're making money, well, they're going to do something else, especially when Lyft isn't changing prime time. What I'm more worried about than that, because I always thought that was going to fail, is that I feel that with this upfront pricing, they're charging customers much higher surge than they're giving the drivers. And that's ultimately what I'm worried about. You had a video on that, I think something like last week or the week before that, where they took 80% of the fares. And Uber can say anything they want to, but if you charge somebody 10 times the rate, that's a 10 times surge. And I don't care if they tell the driver it's only 2.5, they're charging them 10 times as much. That's a 10 times surge. So the driver should get paid for that full 10 times.
Yes, they should. And that's one of the reasons why when I made that video, I cautioned people, you don't want to relax just yet. It is just 10%, and it doesn't mean anything if they eventually pull this surge stunt, which, by the way, I have, because I kind of pushed my source on the upfront surge thing. Like, I kind of asked him or her, because I want to keep him as secret as possible. I want him to keep feeding me information, and I said, "So how bad is it in the upfront areas where the surge is being messed with?" And they told me at first they didn't feel much difference. In fact, they actually saw people driving more, because when they started the surge, they were giving like a flat fee, and the fees were like $10 or $15 a ride. So you'd have people like taking 2-mile rides and getting $15 or $10 on top of it, and they were making real bank for like a week there. And so no one really said anything, but then when they started lowering it to like $5 and $2 per ride, then they've started noticing that there's not a lot of drivers out at 2 a.m. at the moment. So I want to, and I say that again, partially because I'm wondering what Uber's next move is, because it's clear that they want to do that to become profitable. But it's also clear that even if they won't acknowledge it, the drivers aren't stupid. I mean, in fact, it's really foolish of them to mess with the surge, because the people who bank on the surge are the veteran drivers like me, who know when the surges come, who time our rides to do those hours. The everyday person is not driving at 2:30 in the morning or 1:30 in the morning. They're just not. It's experienced people like us who know where the surge is, and if we're not getting a good surge, and we know we're not going to get good surge, and we don't drive, then that kind of undermines the really useful aspect of Uber, is that they get drunk people home safe. Because if there's not drivers, there's not drivers.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel. With the rate increase, I think everyone's kind of feeling that. They're like, all right, well, cool, 10% increase, great. But the next 30 days, give it 30 days, and we're going to see, again, veteran drivers, veteran drivers can tell you exactly at what time, when there should be surge. And again, if we take the standard barometer of rideshare, which is the 2 a.m. bar rush, is those drivers know, okay, it should definitely get to at least a 3x. So if it's only a 1.8 would be a ridiculous insult of a change. But if let's say it's like a 2.1, those veteran drivers are going to say, okay, wait a minute, it's usually at least a 3x. And that continues week after week. Then maybe we can say, all right, well, I see what happened. Uber increased rates 10%, but now, again, yeah, we're seeing lower surge. So that's what we're going to have to watch. Let's watch that for the next 30 days here. So hopefully, if surge doesn't change, then we're all squared away. Hopefully it stays that way. But if we see that pattern of lower surge, then maybe Uber is tweaking that surge as well.
Oh, they might be, but you know, I've heard a lot of people, and I don't know if you guys share this feeling, who say that they would actually be perfectly fine without surge if they were making like $1.50 to $2 a mile.
Well,
would you guys feel justified in not chasing the surge if that were the case?
I've said that, yes, 150. I guess it's gross net, whatever you want to talk about, but 150 is the rate that I'd be happy with. And I've said before, I should feel comfortable in my earnings no matter what time I go online. I can go online right now, take a ride, and I should feel confident in those earnings. And until we get to that spot, then I'm going to be like the driver that you mentioned that drives just surge. So if you want a supported system at any time of day, that's where it needs to be for me.
So one of my most thumbs down video I ever did on my channel was surge pricing is abusive, where I argued just that. I said that it's abusive to the customer, it's abusive to the driver. They should just eliminate surge and charge a normal flat fee, no matter what. Now, I understand that Uber wants you to be able to go to a market maybe that doesn't regularly get drivers. They want to direct drivers to markets that need drivers currently at the very moment. And so a good incentive for that is surge. But my argument for that is get rid of surge, give us a flat rate, and then you can give a boost like component or a individual driver incentive, say like an extra $1 pickup or whatever, to get those drivers into those markets. So it's the same ideas that they're doing now. It's just they're not going to overcharge customers, and drivers will get paid like a livable wage all the time. So I agree with you guys totally.
So you're saying that, I'm sorry, real quick. You're saying that it would have to be a standard rate, but Uber would supplement an additional incentive instead of basically the passenger, because the passenger was incentivizing the driver at 2 in the morning by paying a 3x. So you're saying that let's keep a flat rate, but Uber is going to have to incentivize the driver, because why would you go out there at 2 a.m. if the rates are the same, right?
It's not just the driver who will be making more money. So if the rate, like okay, Florida is 65 cents, right?
Yeah.
You make Florida $1.50. Well, now Uber is making double the money all the time on every ride.
Yep.
So if they need drivers in a certain spot, they can throw an incentive towards a driver to get them there if they want to, because they're still making twice as much money all the time. That's the benefit of raising the rates like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, interesting point. I'm going to disagree slightly. Although here's the thing, I do agree, at least on some level, that if the rates were higher and more consistent, you'd have a better ecosystem overall. However, I think surge is probably always a necessary evil, unfortunately. And I actually had this conversation with an Uber passenger who clearly didn't understand economics, so I'm not going to name him, but he got hit with one of those New Year's Eve surges and complained about how it was like a $400 bill. And he said, well, they should really cap those surges because they would get more people using their service. And I kind of had to, I said, okay, dude, with all due respect, no, they have no reason to cap it, because first of all, you can't create more demand for a night like New Year's Eve if you tried.
Right.
And on the other hand, if drivers knew that they were going to have a capped fare, why on earth would they give up having fun to drive your drunk butt around? I use different terminology, obviously, because I'm not an idiot. And that's where surge can become really tricky, because how many New Year's Eves have I given up going to parties because I knew the surge was going to be super high, and I make somewhere between $500 to $900 that one night because of the surge, and I make some personal sacrifices because I know there's a chance of making that surge. Yet, if there's no surge on holidays like that, what's the incentive for the drivers to go out? I mean, Uber could give a boost, but is it going to be enough to incentivize them? Because if Uber's giving out the boost that the surges are providing, then the busy nights become seriously unprofitable.
Okay, so I got two things to say about that. And the first is I have a solution for that, and it's called upfront tipping. Okay. A lot of other companies do this if you like to do food delivery. And if you want someone to pick you up, you want to go to the front of the line, you should be able to pay more out of your own pocket and then cut to the front of the line. That would, if the customer wants to wait and pay regular rates, I'd say let them, but they're going to be picked up last. That would incentivize the customer and give the customer, a little bit of choice in the matter. So they're not forcing a rate increase, but if you want to go to the top of the line, you can throw a couple extra dollars in there that the driver and then Uber would get. And the other thing is I would say is I understand if you're only driving New Year's Eve, but then you're not driving the rest of the days, that makes sense. But I would much rather make like 50, 60% more every single day I drive and take a smaller cut on New Year's Eve. Because if rates overall are increased and surge goes down, even though I'm making less on New Year's Eve, for the year, I'm going to make more money. So it's more overall money in my pocket, and I'll just take the hit on New Year's. So that's what I would say to that.
That is a good point. That is a very good point. Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying is, again, anytime, any day, rates are higher. I should feel better about being out there. I would feel better. I'd speak even higher of these systems. Drivers would feel better about it, right? And still, 150 is completely fair to passengers. I mean, if they really think about it, taxis are like $2.25 or something, $2 plus. 150 is still fine. Kevin, that's the point that I had too. Is again, if rates were the same, what would make me get out there, right? Like you mentioned, at 12 a.m. One New Year's, I was crossing a bridge at 12 a.m. Another New Year's, I was parked on a curb waiting for surge at 12 a.m. So what incentivizes me then, if rates are the same, to get out there? And yes, there has to be some kind of monetary incentive, probably from Uber.
Right. And I agree with the latter opinion, by the way. I question if the upfront tipping is going to make a difference because people are just notoriously cheap about certain things. And so not only do I doubt a lot of people would even offer the tips, but if people realize that those tips were like $2 or $3, like the tips would have to be really special to really incentivize people. And if they just aren't, people are going to turn off the app and go home.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you too. You're right about that. But I'm just saying that is a possible solution. But no one is asking me, right? Like, I'm not getting paid $200 million to be the CEO of Uber. But if I was, that's just an idea.
Oh, yeah. No, it's an idea. It's definitely an idea. And I mean, the other things, like I remember Tried, they were like a rideshare startup.
Right.
And their whole selling point was that, well, they had two selling points. One, you were going to pay a little bit more money for a slightly nicer car. So I think your car had to be like at least 3 or 4 years old at that. They weren't accepting that. And there was no surge. And that really should have been a huge incentive for people to switch and try them. And it didn't. And they didn't get the drivers because drivers were kind of like, well, what's the point of doing it if there's no surge? And during most of the day, when surge is not an issue, the passenger said, why would I take Tried? It's more expensive. So it's going to be a hard nut to crack. That I do think it's worth at least addressing that maybe we should have a system where surge isn't necessary or that we don't have it. It's not a bad thing to talk about, but I don't know if it's practical. So
no, okay. I think that we agree more on this than we disagree, but I was just trying to, like, for emphasis, try to say something smart, I guess, to like make my point of view sound better, I guess. But that was my best attempt.
Oh. Well, and for the record, of course, nobody won this argument. It's just we didn't come with neither of us came up with a solid solution to the surge problem.
No, I must win all the time, every day at everything. I even win at McDonald's.
Yeah, and right. And also, we are not getting paid $200 million to run the company. And in fact, it's kind of sad how many of our ideas, actually good ideas, aren't even listened to by Uber. But you know what? I can at least solve one issue Uber has, since their driverless car program is kind of on the fritz, is, hey, take care of the drivers better. That's your solution for your driverless car problem at the moment, which reminds me, yes, folks, we are going to talk about the self-driving car crash. And this is the main reason I got Aaron onto this particular episode of the podcast, because out of all of the YouTube rideshares out there, he's the one that seems the most pro-autonomous vehicle. Like, he's made videos, like when I make a video making a big deal about a woman getting killed, he makes a video saying, hey, do you know how many people got killed in driving accidents that had human drivers in them? So I felt an alternate point of view on this subject would be much heated. But I guess the first question I'll throw out there is in relation to Dara K's quote this morning. I don't know if you guys heard it, but Dara K told, I believe it was the New York Post, that Uber is reevaluating their autonomous car plans. And what do you guys think this means? And do you think their autonomous future is in trouble? I guess we'll start with Aaron.
Yeah, well, okay. So the first thing I'll say is, I think that a lot of people on YouTube who are watching my videos think I'm super pro autonomous cars, and that's not entirely true. Like, I still think it's going to kill the economy. I mean, most jobs, I think there was a study that 20% of jobs are related somehow to driving, whether that be directly driving or being a mechanic or a person who loads things on and off, or et cetera, et cetera. So if we lose all of those jobs to autonomy, I think that would be terrible. What I will say is, I think computers are better at driving than people are. And to prove my theory on that, I say just come over here to California, drive on any freeway, and you try to tell me that driver is better than a computer, and you are a liar, because these people are maniacs out here in California.
Mm-hmm. Well, I live in California, so we both live. We all live in California.
Do. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. But to your more directly to your point, I read an article saying that Uber is investigating selling their entire division to Toyota right now. And I heard rumors on Twitter, but I couldn't find an article to verify it, that Dara actually tried to sell this as soon as he became CEO and was kind of like bullied out off of it. So I don't know if that's true. That's just a rumor I read on Twitter. So, I mean, it's the internet, who knows? But I would be exactly 0% surprised if Uber never got an autonomous car on the road to drive by itself. And people have actually done studies on it. Investors have looked at this. I've done videos on this too. I mean, I don't want to like sham my own channel over and over again. But out of the 6 companies who are vying for driverless taxis, Uber's ranked 6th, and it wasn't close. They are by far the worst company when it comes to driverless cars. And I predicted 6 or 7 months ago that they would panic once Waymo got their cars on the road, try to leapfrog Waymo and Lyft, and put a bad product on the road and result in someone being killed. So I kind of feel like my prediction got verified when I said that. Uber had no business with driverless cars on the road. The technology is not necessarily as bad as Uber's for these rest of the companies, but Uber was just panicking. They wanted to be the first to do it. And the results speak for themselves. They have no one to blame but themselves on that.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. Like, even you have a driver who was not experienced and not an engineer. They're using like 1 LiDAR instead of 7, and they're turning off the safety thing. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, you didn't give your opinion on this. I'm sorry.
No, it's to the comment of Dara saying we need to reevaluate our autonomous car. I mean, that's just corporate speak. Of course, they need to reevaluate. Who knows what that means? I mean, they're going to reevaluate it because that's the obvious answer. I mean, to your question of is this going to, completely hinder their autonomous? I don't think so. I am a fan of autonomous technology if we can get this thing right. I love Teslas. I love the autonomous tech in Teslas. Obviously, as we saw with their fatal crash, this is all new. This is all brand new. But I am more of an early adopter. I like the opportunity that we could perfect this. If Aaron shares this point, the fact that statistically, if we're at a point where these cars can drive more miles, and the ratio can be better with fatal accidents, safer, I feel like that's appealing, because if it's safer with more miles, with less fatalities, you get that, and you also get the convenience, obviously, of not having to focus on the road, giving you time back, especially for people who are stuck in traffic for hours and hours. So I like that. But what may stop Uber's autonomous program is like money. I feel like if they're going to hemorrhage money, and who knows if this rate increase, I was thinking maybe this rate increase is a distraction, hopefully, from drivers, and hope maybe everybody to try to, again, show something good with Uber, look, hey, look over here kind of thing. So I don't know, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to stop it. But what might is the company in general. If this company keeps crumbling, if they fail and if they run out of money, that's what's going to stop it. But not the one accident itself.
Well, okay. I would normally say, the one accident has done way more damage, in my opinion, than a lot of people want to admit. I mean, I think Ride with Peterson, he said it best when he's like, they're investigating this car crash as if it was a plane crash, and one person died. And of course, the information that keeps coming out looks worse and worse for Uber. Like, just everything about it's going bad. So, sure. And in a way, I mean, people who say, "Oh, it's not going to completely stop it," we have to acknowledge it has completely stopped it, at least temporarily. I mean, they're not even going to renew their license in California or Pittsburgh for this because they know they're in trouble. And yeah, what Dara says is corporate speak, and who knows what it means. But it's also interesting to see a lot of these articles like Jalopnik and stuff, who's mainly a car site, and they're kind of arguing that, well, first of all, they do argue that these cars are not feasible in the short term, maybe the long term, but not right now. But they're encouraging Uber, like, Uber, maybe you really should cut your losses. In fact, one of the concerns that was raised in the New Yorker Post was they said that it was not a question of whether or not Uber could make an autonomous vehicle, but could they make it safe enough, cheap enough, and can they get it here quick enough for the company to be profitable before they run out of money? Which I think which might be another reason they could be reevaluating this.
Right. Yeah.
And Aaron, it's interesting that you mentioned Toyota might be buying their thing, because I was going to make a video about this today, and then for those of you who are viewing my channel know, like a friend died, and I wasn't particularly in a mood to be making videos at the time. But Toyota made a press release, and this is by far one of the stupidest press releases you could make, given the circumstances, where one of the Toyota heads, I forgot which one, said of autonomous vehicles, hundreds will die, but think of how many thousands more lives will be saved in the long term. And I'm thinking to myself, that is the stupidest thing you could say right now. Like, right now, people don't care that it might eventually save lives. They're seeing a car that's killing lives, and you're getting on stage saying, oh, by the way, hundreds more are going to die. And
I mean, it's like probably from a PR standpoint, the wrong thing to say. I mean, but it's true. Like, there will be less people will die from car accidents if it's autonomous. And that's,
we hope.
Computers are just better at driving. And here's the thing. People don't realize how many people like die in car accidents every year. I mean, it's ridiculous. I think it's number 2 or 3 in the United States. So heart disease kills more people because we like to eat our food here in the United States. And then after that, I think it's car accidents. So, I mean, I haven't Googled that. I'm doing that off memory. But if we could cut that in half, I mean, wouldn't that be worth it? I know it's bad PR because someone just died. The news has been talking about it forever. But ultimately, what we're talking about is saving American lives by transferring to driverless cars.
Yeah, well,
and even if a person jaywalks in the middle of the night and gets run over, here's the thing. I think if people are being honest and they put themselves in that car without an autonomous vehicle in there and they're just driving, that if they're checking an email, if they check a text message, if they look down at their phone to put on some music or whatever, a podcast or whatever, they could have hit that person crossing the street too. And I think that's the part that everyone misses in this, is they're being dishonest with themselves. I know I've almost gotten into an accident. I know I've almost hit like a biker because I was distracted driving Uber and Lyft, managing that app on my phone, talking to customers, looking at my next ride, all that kind of stuff. So yes, this driverless car messed up. yes, Uber disabled the safety feature in order to kind of speed up the process. And so that person died because of that. But honestly, you can't say for 100% if you were in that car driving that you wouldn't have hit that poor lady too. And that's the reality that we have to live with. And that's why I think that ultimately we're going to and need to transfer to a driverless car to reduce this, because we're never going to stop it, but we can reduce it.
Well, that's by the way, those are all very good points, and they're fair points. In fact, I can't really argue too much against those points specifically. But here's one of the reasons I really don't like these cars is I actually think in a roundabout way, these cars will kill more people than save lives. And maybe it's just a conspiracy theorist in me. I've got a little bit of it, I acknowledge. But you mentioned like how 20% of the workforce can be put out. I mean, geez, we're going to feel the effects of Toys R Us closing and losing 30,000 jobs. We're going to lose way more jobs if these cars take over. And someone made like a funny but probably somewhat true comment where they're like, so instead of people dying on the road, they can just starve to death. And they had like a question mark. Because, yeah, what do you do with those people that you put out of work? They can't afford to work. They can't afford to eat. What happens to them?
Well, I agree with that. And I think that's the bigger problem. I know no one likes to talk about that because money sounds like maybe unimportant compared to somebody's life. And so when you bring up this topic, people get upset. But I think the bigger problem is exactly what you said, is how are people going to put food on their kids' table? How are they going to pay for college for their kids? How are they going to get a savings account when one of the last honest jobs in the United States is a trucker, long-haul truckers, and that's going to be the first job to go. Uber's already got autonomous trucks, and they work fine. On the highway, no problem. So Tesla's done it. A couple other companies are getting into the driverless long bed trucker, and I agree with you. That's a major problem. So I think the only solution we have left is crazy Elon Musk's idea where we're going to just have to have a basic income at where we pay out and then tax the robots, because they're going to put all these people out of work and we're not going to be able to replace 20% of the workforce. That's just not going to happen.
No.
That's the good point. That's what gets me thinking. Because until you said that, Aaron, I'm like, I see some other people in the live chat here. It's like, all right, new jobs are created or people will adapt, as someone said. But like, how do you replace 20% of the workforce? That is an interesting question.
And it's funny that we should be talking about this on an Uber podcast, because early when Uber started, I remember someone saying this. They wrote it in an article somewhere, and it rang true then, and it's kind of funny to think about in hindsight, but they looked at the Uber business model, they looked at how people were making money from it, and they said, I think Travis Kalanick just fixed the middle class problem. And now it's interesting because the company that fixed the problem is now taking it away, so to speak.
Oh, I get it. When you said problem, I thought you were saying it like in quotation marks, like there's a problem. People in the United States have too much money. Let's get Uber to kill it.
No. Like they were praising Uber for helping a lot of people make money and contribute to the economy again. And of course, this was when rates were fair and people were just getting into it. And everyone except Uber obviously recognized that what they had worked and it was going to get big regardless. And then Uber started doing impoverished wages, and now they are trying to get rid of all those drivers. So it's like, so you kind of dangle the carrot saying how much better life could be for everyone and how much money this company could make everybody while still being profitable, and you're taking it away. I don't know. It's just interesting.
No, I hear there, and I agree with you, and that's what I said at the very beginning is when you look at the problem of money, the problem of putting paychecks in people's pockets, there's no argument that not just in the rideshare industry, not just in the car industry, but in all industry, like across the board, automation is killing jobs left and right because it's cheaper to hire a machine than it is to hire a person, and it's cheaper to repair a machine than it is to repair a person if they get hurt. So I don't know what we're going to do going forward, but it's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, I kind of wonder sometimes, like, I mean, it's just frustrating when you see so many people push for an innovation because they want things to be more convenient. And I don't know about you guys. I've talked to a lot of people, but there's only a couple types of people who were really excited about the driverless cars. The first group of people are the people in the technology business, or people who are fascinated by technology. And of course, there's always like, what can this do? Can you imagine what we could do if we had this? And drunk college rich kids who just frankly didn't want to drive home at night. And almost everyone else I talked to look at these things with great distrust and suspicion, because they wonder, like, I like was driving a manager of a Denny's, and he was here on a corporate business meeting. He actually was a manager of a Denny's, like in the middle of nowhere out in Milwaukee, I believe. And he gets truckers all the time. And he's noticed, like, you know what? I'm noticing less truckers eating at my restaurant. And if the truckers go away, that Denny's doesn't have any customers, because they don't serve anyone except the locals, which there aren't many of. It's like a small car-sized town, and the truckers who drive by. In fact, that small area of that small town, apparently the truckers contribute to most of the economy. And you get rid of the truckers, it kills the town.
I'm sure there's plenty of towns like that too, where they hinge on, you know, truckers or similar fields. And how does it affect secondary businesses like that Denny's, like you mentioned? Driver Lady Pro in here says people will adapt, but I think this change will need to come slow.
Yeah, well, maybe it would have to come slow, but I don't know if we could fully adapt for, again, 20%. And I mean, I'm sure we've all seen cars, especially Aaron. He's got kids. I'm a big Pixar and Disney fan, and I was watching the making of thing, and John Lasseter was talking about the inspiration of that movie. He had just finished Toy Story 2, and he had made 3 movies in a row, and he needed to take time with his family because the kids were growing up. So he got in an RV, and he went on the Route 66 road, and they came across a town that looked very similar to the one you see in the movie, and there was just nobody there except some locals who just couldn't bear to leave. And they told him the story. They put the freeway up, and people stopped coming. And and in terms of how it relates to this, like, imagine that on a mass scale when you get rid of the truckers.
Well, I think you just described the plot to the original Cars movie. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, that is. That was the inspiration for the Cars movie. That was why.
No, I hear you. And that's what I mean when I say you're not going to be able to replace those jobs. There's just, I mean, like, when one individual town goes away, say because it was like a gold mine town and there's no more gold, or they were doing like cutting down trees and now they're not logging anymore, so they move around. That's fine. But we're talking about devastation across the United States, because there are a lot of towns, there are a lot of little cities that rely on people pulling over the side of the road, getting gas, eating food, and staying in a hotel. And man, I want to think about how we're going to get those people. Like, what are they going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, my family's owned this Denny's for 30 years or 30 generations or whatever, however long it's been. And now I guess I'm going to be an accountant. Like, I mean, I don't know how that's not going to happen. Right. They're not going to be 20% of the country isn't going to be accountants. You know what I mean? They're going to be unemployed permanently, basically, and have to relocate with no money. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very hard to get a new career when you lose your job at 55. Too old to get a new job, too young to get Social Security, which you shouldn't rely on anyway. So it's scary. So one more question, and then we'll quickly do some Q&A, because I know Mike has someplace to go. And truthfully, I actually got to pick up my car from a shop before they close, so today's has to be a little shorter. But one final question involving the car accident, where the governor basically said autonomous companies can come on the road and they don't have to be regulated. Now, he has rescinded Uber's invitation to be on the road. But do you think that the general, executive order of saying, hey, any company with autonomous vehicles can come on our roads without regulation, do you think that's going to be rescinded as well?
I'm sorry, say it one more time. I guess I didn't understand the question. I'm dumb. My bad.
Well, no, I can answer that first, Kevin. Is when, to my understanding, when Arizona welcomed in Uber, they did so without any additional regulations other than Uber's own. So the governor, I believe, said, "Yeah, hey, come on in, and we have a no regulation state. You can come in, you can test on our roads. We have no other regulations other than what you guys are going to have yourself." Kevin, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, but that wasn't just for Uber. That was for all the companies.
All right, sure. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, your question was you're asking, is that going to change?
Well, because he's already written a letter to Uber and said that they can no longer test their cars unregulated on the roads. The question is he going to go to Waymo and Toyota and General Motors and Lyft, and is he going to say to them, "Hey, you know what, guys, we got to regulate this. You can't have a free buffet anymore"?
Right. Wow, that is a good question. I mean, knee-jerk reaction on that, absolute first impression, I feel like that's probably the safer thing to do. Is okay, wait. We need to look at this a little bit deeper here because we don't want this to happen again. We need to sit down and have some kind of I have no idea what kind of regulations they would start talking about, but maybe at least a pause for some, I don't know, debate, maybe a roundtable, maybe representatives from these companies say, all right, what can we do? Show us right now what you're going to do to make this safer, because we just have a huge red flag here and we need to talk to everybody.
So here's my answer, and it's not going to be very happy, which is the governor isn't going to say they can't continue to drive. What he's going to say is, hey, man, you want to keep driving here? I need X amount of dollars donated to my campaign fund. I'm telling you, I lived in Arizona for a long time. That place is one of the most corrupt places in the entire world. They never got out of the wild, wild west. They still think they live there. And that governor doesn't care that one of his citizens died. He cared that he got bad publicity, man. So they're just going to go to Waymo and extort money from them, and they'll just be able to continue doing their thing there. That's my prediction anyway.
Yeah. I don't know anything about Arizona politics. I've been to Arizona once. Wasn't the most beautiful state I've been to, admittingly. And yeah, that unfortunately sounds pretty accurate. I mean, unfortunately, I think the only thing that's going to get companies off the road is if another company messes up like this. And I think Google is careful enough to not let that happen. Of course, now I wonder, is Waymo going to launch their self-driving fleet by the end of the year as a result of this in Arizona?
I think both Waymo and Lyft are going to launch by the end of this year in smaller markets like Arizona. I've said that since last year. So I mean, Waymo is really close. I think if I had to bet right now, that I would say Waymo will come out victorious in the driverless car war, but it's still early to predict or whatever. But I have a lot of faith in them. Google's had some pretty good success with driverless cars in the past. I mean, they map everything from Google Maps now with their autonomous cars, so they've got a little bit of it figured out. I mean, passengers is going to be a problem, but that's my prediction.
Right. Well, yeah, and those are questions we'll probably have to save for our next episode because it's a hot topic. So before we leave, were there any questions from the listeners who are listening to this live that we should be addressing? Mike, you're our monitor on that.
Yeah, there's a few comments in here. Just recently here, Rosie A184 says, I just lost it here. There we go. Why is it that someone has to die for regulation that should have happened in the first place to finally get put in place?
Money. I personally think it's because the states wanted money from this.
Well, Arizona wanted the testing, right? That's kind of why they were the open regulation state to try to beat out California, right? They're like, hey, come here. We want you here immediately, right? And I'm wondering because, hey, guys, I mean, again, I just came from Pittsburgh last August when Pittsburgh was, guys, it was the only thing that was reported in Pittsburgh about Mayor Peduto was that and again, the same thing. They were open arms. Uber, come on down. And Uber had all these demands. Uber actually said, guys, they told the city of Pittsburgh, we want dedicated lanes for rideshare. We want, dedicated, there was like special signage they wanted and all of this. Thankfully, Pittsburgh didn't give them all of that. But I mean, I can imagine there was some pretty lucrative deals for Uber to build their advanced technology center in Pittsburgh. And Peduto actually was on record. Peduto said, Mayor Peduto in Pittsburgh, that Uber did not hold their end of the bargain in partnering with the city of Pittsburgh. No surprise, right? But
no surprise.
Yeah. And that was said months and months ago. No surprise.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'll just add this. There's a reason Uber went to Arizona. There's 50 states. Why didn't they do this in another state? It's because they went to a state that had the least amount of regulation, where they know that there's a little bit more corruption than the rest of the country, and they could put pressure on the governor to sign an executive order, and that's what they did. And so it's amazing how incompetent Uber is, but at the same time, how smart they are at getting around like laws. And you pick Arizona when you're doing something shady because there's not going to be anyone looking at you while you're operating.
Right. I kind of agree with that. So any other questions?
Just some comments here. Hey, Dark Road Run just dropped a $5 super chat. Great podcast or something. I don't know what that means, Dark Road Run. Great podcast. I think he says group tonight. Also 100 viewers and eyebrows are coming off. I don't get the reference.
Oh, I kind of do.
Dark Road Run is running a podcast right after this one. And he has made a bet with some people on the internets that if 100 people watch his podcast, he will shave his eyebrows live on the podcast tonight.
Well, guys, you heard it here. Dark Road Run is having a live stream shortly after this. And at any point, if that live stream hits 100 viewers, the eyebrows are coming off.
Yeah.
There's some marketing for you. Okay, let's see. What else we got in here? Okay. Yes, I personally think every company needs to have a dual or I guess triple safety features built into these driverless cars before they get on the road. I mean, Kevin, that's kind of the point of like, hey, Uber disabled native safety features on these cars. They cut down the number of LiDAR sensors. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys know anything about this, but why or what technology does Waymo have or Google have that, again, Google's been testing this for years before Uber. What are they doing right that Uber just bombed on apparently?
It's mostly the biggest difference is the software. Okay. The software, Google has the best engineers in the world. Amazon's slowly stealing some of them. But if you remember correctly, February of last year, there's a big scandal because of the sexual harassment that was going on amongst the software developers. So what do you think happens when your company is driving away the best software engineers there are in the world, and these software engineers are leaving your company and going to the competition? What's going to happen is the eventual software that the other companies have is going to be better at doing its job than Uber's. In a lot of ways, this is Uber's self-inflicted wound because the country's and the world's, to be honest, best female engineers left Uber, left the driverless program, and went to work for somebody else who respected them. And that's why Waymo, which is a division of Google, is doing so much better than Uber, in my opinion.
That's good. I also think Google doesn't have a win-at-all-cost mentality that Uber has. And Uber has that for a couple of reasons. One, it was what the culture was bred on. But also, when you're losing as much money as they are way more desperate to be profitable than Google. Google can afford to wait, be patient, get it right. And Uber's kind of like, we're going to run out of money in 2 years. We need these things on the road now. And I think that's another key difference.
Well, meanwhile,
that is a great point.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You just won, okay? You won your own podcast tonight. That was a genius comment. You're absolutely right.
Thanks. Well, it's not about winning. That's what I usually do. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, I got a text from a viewer. Your podcast sucks without Drive Girl Drive.
Oh no, guys.
Mom,
can we just admit that everything in life sucks without Drive Girl Drive?
Without Drive
Like,
Girl
I think
Drive.
it's just a universal truth.
That's my mom saying that. Jeez. I'm supposed to be the favorite.
We do have some more appreciation in the live chat. Driver Lady Pro just dropped another $3 super chat.
Thanks. The proceeds will be going to your driver Mike as he continues to make custom thumbnails for these episodes now that we have different co-hosts for this episode.
It may be going to the car repair. I need to get the caliber looked at here in the next week.
Ah, wow. Yeah, that's
120,000 miles. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I'm going to close with one more question because it's a question that I had just thought about, and then I'm going to wrap this up because we unfortunately are on a little bit of a time constraint tonight. But somebody actually made a comment, and it's it got privated because they put the hashtag pay drivers fair thing, but they asked if the small price hike in the city's Ubers raising the rates results in more drivers getting on the road. Do you think Uber will realize that this is probably the direction they want to go and slowly start to increase the rates to focus on driver retention to cut out bonuses?
Aaron, do you want to take that first?
So they're cutting out the bonuses. I guess I don't understand.
No. The question is if when the price hikes come, it results in more people driving on the road. Do you think Uber would continue to slowly raise the rates because since they're bleeding so much money, it would be more helpful to retain drivers rather than to pay huge bonuses to new drivers? Do you think it is possible that could happen?
I mean, it's possible, but don't forget, everything's a market, right? So if everyone in the United States got an Uber account to drive, then we'd all get one ride every 2 hours and then people would quit anyway. So at some point, there's like a ceiling that we're never going to get past anyway. So maybe at first, but I kind of just think that it would work itself out. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that am I being crazy when I say that? I guess I should be more driver friendly than that, I guess, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've always been hoping it would work itself out, and it never seems to. Mike, what do you think?
Well, that's what I was thinking earlier. Is flat out, if rates go up, even this 10%, I guarantee tonight in Pittsburgh, Ann Arbor, and wherever else this is happening, guarantee the number is going to be higher tonight because of that pay increase. And yeah, there's going to be more drivers on the road. Now, it may be a bell curve. Drivers start getting back on the road, and then they're like, it's still not worth it, and some drop off. Maybe some will stay back on. Some eventually get bored of the system. But will it be enough to eliminate boost and surge? I don't know. Probably not.
The other thing you got to realize is some people just can't drive at certain times, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you got a 9 to 5, they could raise rates to anything they wanted to, but unless it's going to be more money than your current 9 to 5 corporate job, you're still not going to drive at those times. So that's what I meant by it's a market, right? I mean, the rates would have to go so high that people would quit their day job, and unless you're working like in a more closer to minimum wage job, you're not going to quit and work Uber full time. Now, you may go out on the weekends, you may go out at night, or early in the morning before your job. But I just don't think increasing rates is going to have an overall negative effect at all for the drivers, just because I don't see it flooding the market any more than it already is.
Interesting. I'm personally doubtful Uber will be raising the rates too much anytime soon. I think they're testing it out to see how drivers react, but they're also going to be experimenting with it. Like, okay, well, they've reacted positively. Will they react positively enough in this market if we take away the surge as well. So I'm expecting some nefarious motivations behind it. I just don't know what at the moment. So anyway, so that's where we're gonna end it off. Aaron, thank you for guest hosting with us tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. I'll come on anytime. I always watch these anyway, so I feel like extra important when I get to talk during them. I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me. And if you guys liked what I had to say tonight, you can check out my YouTube channel. It's YouTube/YourPersonalDriver. And let me know. See some of my videos. I say the same stuff I've been saying tonight. And I appreciate all you guys for listening. Thanks. Also, your driver Mike is the man.
Yeah, we have links for all of the YouTubers in the description below if you want to follow any of us. And of course, thank you, Mike, for, as always, interesting discussion and monitoring the chat room, which I just don't have time to do when I'm doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, I appreciate everyone being here. There's 50 of you in here. I really appreciate it. As always, good discussion. And again, a lot of valuable content here. A lot of valuable content on Kevin's channel, who's posting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day. You never know with Kevin. He's providing content all the time.
Yep. And that ends this episode of the monthly Rideshare podcast. And just to assure everyone, yes, we are working on getting it on the Google and Apple stores. Hopefully we can announce that soon. But as you can see, it's way more fun to do it on YouTube the first time through for the live interaction. Otherwise, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you guys for joining me, and we will see you next time.